The first time I saw the old rusty box under my father's bed, I thought it was nothing more than junk, until I opened it and found the photograph of a woman who looked exactly like me, but wasn't my mother. I grew up in Ajegunle, in a noisy two-room flat at the end of Olonot Street. Our compound was the kind of place where everybody knew everybody's business, where gossip spread faster than the smell of akara frying in the morning. The building was old, with cracked walls and paint peeling like tired skin. At night, the air was filled with the hum of generators and the sharp smell of diesel. During the day, you could hear street hawkers shouting prices for recharge cards, tomatoes, and second-hand clothes. My father, Pa Bamidele, was a strict man with eyes sharp enough to silence a room. He had worked at the docks before becoming a carpenter. My mother, Mama Ronki, was his opposite, warm, quick to laugh, always the first to feed a hungry neighbor. We weren't rich, but we were steady, and I thought that was enough. That rainy Saturday morning, my parents had gone to a burial in Festac. I was home cleaning, mopping the bedroom floor when I saw a faint metallic glint under their bed. I bent down and dragged out a dusty iron box. The padlock was already broken. My heart was beating strangely fast, but curiosity won. Inside, wrapped in a faded wrapper, was a stack of photographs and papers. The first photograph stopped my breath. A young woman in a blue Ankara dress, smiling, standing next to my father while holding a newborn baby. She had my exact eyes, my cheekbones, even my gap tooth. But she wasn't my mother. There were letters too, love letters written over 25 years ago, transfer receipts, and at the bottom, a birth certificate with a name I had never heard. Abigail Bamidele. Same surname as mine. Same father's name. Different mother. When they came home later that day, I acted normal, but the knowledge burned in my mind. I didn't know if I should confront my father, tell my mother, or put the box back and pretend I had never seen it. Days passed, and I carried the secret alone. My father noticed my quietness, but he said nothing. I told myself I would wait for the right time. That time came sooner than I expected. One rainy night, there was a knock at our gate. A young woman stood there, drenched, clutching a bag. She couldn't have been more than 25. Her voice trembled as she said, "My name is Abigail. I'm your sister." I stood frozen. Before I could speak, my father came outside. The look on his face, fear, anger, and something else I couldn't name, told me this was real. My mother appeared behind him, her brows knitted in confusion. That was the night the truth spilled out. My father had loved another woman before marrying my mother. They had a child, Abigail, but the woman died mysteriously before they could marry. Rumors had said my father was involved. He denied it, but her family cut him off and took the baby away. Now, all these years later, Abigail had found him. My mother was shattered. She felt betrayed, humiliated that I had known something before her. I was caught between her anger and my father's desperate plea to keep the family from falling apart. Abigail stayed in our spare room, polite but watchful. Weeks went by, and then I overheard them one night, arguing in low voices. She was demanding a large sum of money and threatening to reveal the real truth about her mother's death if he didn't pay. My stomach tightened. Was she blackmailing him? And what did she mean by the real truth? I confronted her the next night. She didn't flinch. Instead, she smirked, and in a voice too cold for a sister said, "Your father killed my mother. I can prove it." From under her pillow, she pulled a cassette tape wrapped in nylon, claiming it was a recording of my father confessing years ago. My mind spun. If I gave it to the police, my father could go to prison. If I destroyed it, I would be protecting a murderer. That night, I hid the cassette in my drawer, but by morning, it was gone. Abigail's room was empty. She had vanished. 2 days later, word came that she was in Papakos with a man known for selling secrets to the highest bidder. My father shut down whenever I asked about it. My mother's eyes turned cold. with suspicion, and I was left wondering whether Abigail had lied, or whether she had taken with her the only chance I had to know the truth about my father. Weeks later, one quiet night, I woke to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. I got up and followed them to my father's room. The door was slightly open. He was kneeling by the bed, pulling out the same iron box, but this time he didn't put anything inside. He unwrapped the old cloth and revealed a blood-stained kitchen knife. He stared at it for a long time, then whispered, "I told her I would keep her safe," but she didn't listen. My heart stopped. Before I could move, his eyes lifted and met mine. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. The air between us felt heavy, thick with the unspoken. My father's gaze was unreadable, his fingers still gripping the handle of the knife, as if it was the only thing keeping him grounded. "What did you hear?" he asked, his voice low, almost calm, which somehow made it worse. My throat was dry. "Everything," he sighed, placing the knife gently back into the box. "Then you know I didn't want it to happen." "That's not what you said just now," I shot back, my voice trembling. "You said she didn't listen." "Who? Abigail's mother?" His eyes darkened. "You think you know the truth, eh? You don't know anything." Before I could press further, he stood, closed the box, and walked toward me. I wanted to step back, but my legs felt nailed to the floor. He stopped just inches from my face. "If you love your mother, and if you want this family to survive, you will forget what you saw tonight." I couldn't breathe. The words were not a request, they were a threat. The next morning, my father acted like nothing had happened. My mother cooked breakfast in silence, her eyes darting between us. I wanted to tell her everything, but how could I, when I didn't know how deep this went? That afternoon, a neighbor came knocking. She handed me a folded newspaper and said, "You need to see page 4. My hand shook as I opened it. There, in black and white, was a small headline: "Unidentified woman found dead in Papakos Canal." The grainy photo beneath it showed Abigail's lifeless body, half submerged in murky water. I dropped the paper. My father's face didn't change when he saw it. Not shock, not grief, just stillness. That night, while the compound settled into the usual hum of generators, I lay awake, replaying every moment. Abigail's threat, the missing cassette, my father's words. At midnight, I heard movement again. This time, I didn't follow him. I stayed in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if the sound I heard outside was rain, or the sound of him washing something away. I knew one thing for sure. Whatever truth was buried in our family, it was drowning everyone around it, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to survive knowing it. 3 days after Abigail's death, the house was unbearably quiet. My mother barely spoke to anyone. My father went about his carpentry work as though nothing had happened, whistling softly while planing wood in the workshop. But at night, I heard him pacing his room. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. I started my own search, moving through Ajegunle and into Papakos, asking quiet questions in loud places: beer parlors, roadside suya joints, even the motor park. Most people shook their heads, but one Okada rider remembered seeing Abigail 2 nights before she died. She wasn't alone. She was with a man called Oki, a small-time hustler who bragged about owning something that could finish a man's life. That was enough to push me further. I tracked Oki to a rundown face, I face you near Boundary Market. The stench of stale alcohol and gutter water hung heavy in the air. He denied knowing anything at first, but when I slipped him some cash, his mouth loosened. "She came to me," he said, lighting a cigarette. "Said she had proof your papa killed her mama. Told me to help her sell it. The cassette was real. I played it myself." I heard a man's voice. Sounded like your papa, arguing with a woman. There was shouting, then silence. Then the man saying, "I told you not to push me." "Where's the tape now?" I asked. Okay gave a short laugh. Gone. Your papa bought it back that same night. Gave me plenty money to keep my mouth shut. Then 2 days later, she ends up dead? My sister, you should ask your papa what happened. The words burned in my ears as I walked back home. That night, I waited until my parents were asleep. My father's workshop was locked, but I knew where he kept the spare key. Inside, the iron box was there again. My hand shook as I opened it. The knife was gone. Instead, I found the cassette tape, wrapped in black nylon. My heart pounded. I didn't dare play it in the house. The next morning, I took it to a neighbor who still had an old cassette player. The tape eased for a few seconds before the voices came. It was my father, no doubt. He was angry, accusing a woman of trying to destroy everything. The woman's voice, Abigail's mother, was calm but firm, telling him she would expose him for something he did at the docks. The argument grew heated. Then came a loud crash, a scream, and the sound of choking. Minutes later, his voice again shaking. "I told you not to push me." My stomach turned. It was a confession, a murder, and now I was holding the proof. When I got home, my father was sitting in the living room, his eyes fixed on me. "Where did you go?" he asked. I lied, said I went to the market. But his gaze didn't waver. Slowly he leaned forward. Abigail thought she could destroy me with that tape. She didn't understand. I was protecting all of us. If that woman had spoken, we would have all lost everything. And now you have to choose. My voice cracked. Choose what? He smiled faintly, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Whether to keep your family or destroy it. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just his daughter. I was now the keeper of his darkest secrets, and I didn't know if I had the strength or the heart to carry it. I didn't sleep that night. The words, "keep your family" or "destroy it" kept echoing in my head like the clanging of an empty metal bucket. I lay on my bed staring at the ceiling, my mind a whirlwind. By dawn, my pillow was damp with sweat, not from heat, but from the weight of the decision pressing on my chest. In the morning, my father acted like nothing had happened. He wore his faded brown work shorts, humming softly while sipping his tea. Mama Ronki moved around the kitchen like a ghost, avoiding both our eyes. I knew she could sense something. Mothers always know, even when you say nothing. I decided to keep the cassette hidden for now. I wrapped it in 2 layers of nylon and stuffed it inside an old handbag at the bottom of my wardrobe. But hiding it didn't silence the paranoia that began to grow in me. Every time I saw my father's eyes linger on me, I wondered, did he already know where it was? Did he check my room when I left? 3 days later, OK found me first. I was buying vegetables near Boundary when a rough voice called my name. I turned, and there he was, cigarettes in his mouth, eyes darting around. He looked nervous. "You still have that tape?" he asked in a low voice. My chest tightened. "Why?" "Because you're not the only one looking for it," he said. "A man came to my place last night, asking questions about you. Said he works for your papa, tall, with a scar on his cheek. Dangerous type." A chill ran through me. My father had sent someone to track me. That meant he didn't trust me, which also meant my time to decide was running out. I left the market quickly, but halfway home, I noticed a man leaning against a kiki, pretending to scroll on his phone. He looked up just enough for me to see the scar. My legs moved faster. That night, I took the tape and left the house quietly. My destination was Alhaja Sikirat's house. She was my mother's cousin, a woman known for being both feared and respected in Ajegunle. If there was anyone who could keep this tape safe and decide what to do with it, it was her. When she opened the door, her eyes went straight to my trembling hands. "What happened?" "I need you to keep this," I whispered, placing the nylon-wrapped cassette in her palm. She didn't ask questions, just nodded slowly. "Sleep here tonight." I was halfway relieved, until I woke at midnight to the sound of loud banging on her gate. Voices, my father's voice among them. "Open the gate, Sikirat! I know she's inside!" Alhaja moved quickly, pushing me toward the back door. "Go now, child. Run to the next street and don't look back." I ran barefoot through the dark alleys of Ajegunle, heart hammering. The rain had started again, and by the time I reached the main road, I was soaked. I didn't go home. I couldn't. Instead, I went to Papakos, to an old church where I knew Pastor Enoch sometimes lets people sleep. In the morning, Alhaja found me there. She looked shaken. "They took it," she said. "Your father's men. The tape is gone." My knees buckled. I had risked everything, and now the only proof was back in his hands. I wanted to scream, but something in her eyes made me stop. "You're in danger now," she said. "If he was willing to take it by force, you must ask yourself, what else is he willing to do?" Her words haunted me. That evening, as I returned to Ajegunle, I found the compound eerily quiet. My father's workshop door was open. I stepped inside, calling for Mama, but only my father emerged. His eyes were calm, too calm. "I told you to forget," he said softly. "You didn't listen." Then he stepped aside, and I saw it. My mother's wrapper on the floor stained dark in the middle. My chest tightened as the air left my lungs. "She wanted to go to the police," he continued. "Now she won't." I couldn't move. My father took a slow step toward me. "And neither will you." Something broke inside me. I turned and ran, not out the door, but deeper into the workshop, toward the back window. I squeezed through and landed hard outside, scraping my arm, but I kept running until I reached Boundary Market again. I didn't stop until I was on a bus headed out of Ajegunle. As the Dunfo rattled toward an unknown future, I realized I had nothing. No tape, no proof, no family. Only the truth in my memory, and the weight of knowing my father's darkness would follow me wherever I went. The real question now wasn't whether to keep the secret, it was whether I would survive keeping it. For 3 weeks, I lived like a shadow. I moved from one friend's room to another, never staying longer than 2 nights in the same place. I avoided Ajegunle entirely, even crossing streets whenever I saw anyone who might know my father. The paranoia ate at me. Every voice behind me, every sudden movement felt like the beginning of the end. But no matter how far I tried to run, I knew one thing. My father wouldn't stop until he knew I was no threat to him. And I wasn't ready to spend the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. If I wanted to survive, I had to end this. That's how I found myself back in Papakos, standing outside a rundown beer parlor at the edge of the canal. Inside, the air was heavy with smoke and sweat. At a corner table, Oke sat with 2 other men playing cards. When he saw me, his eyebrows shot up. "You're still alive?" he said, half joking. "I thought, I need your help," I cut in. "But first I need the truth. Was there ever another copy of that tape?" He looked around, lowered his voice. "There might be. When I first got the cassette from Abigail, I made a backup on my friend's old camcorder. Thought it might come in handy." My heart jumped. "Where is it?" "Safe," he said, smirking. "But safe costs money." I didn't have money, but I had desperation, and desperation can be a currency. "If you give me that copy, you'll never have to deal with my father again. He won't be able to touch you." Oke hesitated. Then he leaned closer. "Meet me at the canal bridge at midnight. Come alone." The rain came heavy that night, turning the streets into rivers. I stood under the dim light of the bridge, my hoodie pulled tight. Oke arrived late, carrying a small plastic bag. "It's all here," he said. "But once you take it, you're on your own." Before I could even open it, a shadow moved behind him. The glint of a knife flashed, and Oke's eyes widened in shock. He staggered, blood blooming on his shirt, before collapsing at my feet. Standing over him was my father. The rain plastered his shirt to his chest, his grey stubble darkened by water. His eyes locked on mine, cold and certain. "I told you to leave this alone." I clutched the bag to my chest. "It's over, Baba. If you kill me too, people will ask questions." He took a step forward. "People don't ask questions in this city unless they want to die." I stepped back, my foot slipping on the wet concrete. The canal roared beneath us. I knew in that moment that he was right. Ajegunle and Papakos didn't care about justice, but I also knew I couldn't keep running. "I'm not afraid of you anymore," I said, my voice trembling but clear. "And if you kill me, the person holding the other copy will take it straight to the police." It was a lie, but in his pause, I saw a flicker of doubt. His hand tightened on the knife. We stared at each other, rain hammering down, until a set of headlights appeared at the end of the bridge. A danfo slowed, the driver shouting at us to move. My father glanced at it, then back at me. Without a word, he turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving Oke's lifeless body behind. I didn't go home. I didn't even go to the police. I went to Alhaja Sikirat's house again, this time with the plastic bag. Inside was a small cassette marked only with the date of Abigail's mother's death. I didn't play it. I didn't need to. The truth was there, waiting. "Will you give it to the police?" Alhaja asked quietly. I stared at the rain through her window. "Not yet. But the day I stop being afraid, that's the day I'll bury him for good." Some nights, I still hear footsteps outside my window, or see a shadow pause too long at the corner of the street. I know he's watching, waiting for me to make the wrong move. And I know one day, this will end in only two ways. Either I bury my father, or he buries me. The end.